Hello and welcome to HDFS 402. I'm Dr. Ashley Harvey. I'll be your instructor for this class. I love this class. I've taught this class over 50 times on campus and online. I've taught it most years since I've been at CSU, and I look forward to sharing it with you. I hope that you'll gain information that can help you in both your personal and your professional life. I'm really glad to talk with you, help you with if you're struggling in this class. I love to look over any assignment drafts you've done prior to you submitting them so I can really help you maximize your score. I'd be glad to discuss your career plans, other things about the class content, or to look over your exam scores. I generally hold my office hours online on Zoom, and there's a sign up on the course homepage for my office hours each week, although in the summer I just hold those by appointment. All right, let me tell you quickly about me. So I grew up in Gainesville, Florida, go Gators, but I betrayed my family and went to Florida State, where I met my husband. I followed him out to Colorado, and after working as a secretary for Pathways Hospice here in town, that was my first real job. Then I went and did a master's in marriage and family therapy in the Human Development and Family Studies department here at CSU. Then I worked for 3 years at the CSU Veterinary Teaching Hospital as a grief counselor and educator. Then I left. We moved to Indiana so that I could attend Purdue. I was pregnant with my son when I started and pregnant with my daughter when I finished. Then we moved back here, and I began teaching full-time at CSU in 2007, and I've been doing that ever since. A little bit about my family of origin. You can see that picture there. We are all actually Dr. Harveys because my parents both have PhDs, and my brother recently got a doctorate of ministry. And then you can see a picture of my current family. I have a son who's graduated from college and a daughter in beginning college. And so I definitely have a ton of empathy for what it's like to be a college student right now. We have an excellent teaching assistant team, both graduate and undergraduate support, and you'll have a chance to meet them on campus. So even though this is a face-to-face class, everything is available online, and I do that in case you have to miss class or you have something going on. I am still hoping that you're coming to class, and of course there's iClicker points to incentivize you to get to class. If coming to class really doesn't work for you, then I'd suggest taking this class online. Everything is open now, and you can work ahead with the exception of the major exams and a couple of extra credit surveys. We are going to meet almost all of the days. There's a couple of days where we won't meet, and that's noted in the course schedule, which is a PDF file under the syllabus link on the left sidebar. And I'll also announce it each week on the Canvas announcements and in the PowerPoint announcements that I go through the first day of class each week. Okay, so what's our focus in this class? We actually divide the class into 3 units. So the first one is the theory unit, and we cover 5 family theories. We go more into depth in theory than you typically do in HDFS classes. And in that we write our major paper in this class, the theory paper. And then we focus on context, as we often do in HDFS, with a little bit more attention this time to theory and also to couples. And I should say, once we get through the theory unit, the class is more focused on couples, since we have other classes like HDFS 334 that are focused more on kids. And then in our third unit, which takes up the second half of the class, we basically go into special topics around couples and families, things that I hope are not covered so much in other HDFS classes, some really interesting material. Okay, so the lectures are definitely the heart of this class, and so you want to prioritize coming to class or making sure you listen to them if you miss them. It's really how I'm teaching you what I know and how to help yourself and others. We sometimes will run out of time to complete the lecture material in class, and so you may need to finish it asynchronously. We'll always send an announcement telling you kind of where to pick up on the lecture recording. So all lectures, I'm going to give them in class, and they're also available asynchronously online, pre-recorded. They're great to use when you're reviewing for the exam, so you can put it on fast speed and listen to it again. There's about 16 lectures, so one per module. One module, I think, has 2 lectures. So for the first few modules of this class, we'll be focusing on family theories, and we'll refer to some chapters from this textbook, Exploring Family Theories. However, reading those chapters is not required for the exams. Everything that you need to know for the exams about the theories you can get from the lectures. But I do require that you use 2 of these chapters for your theory paper. However, they are posted on Canvas as PDF files and through Course Reserve. From an older edition. So you don't have to purchase the textbook. However, if you'd like to purchase it, you can, and you can buy the latest edition, or one that's slightly older is fine too. Once we get past the theory unit and the Smith and Hammond chapters, then the rest of the readings in the class are just chapters that I've hand selected from a variety of books. I try to pick ones that I think are memorable and will be great for our online reading discussions. And you can always give me feedback on which ones you like, which ones you don't, and maybe suggestions for different readings. So we will generally use the Canvas announcement function that gets sent to your email when we're communicating with you as a class, or directly we will just send an email to you through your CSU email or through your Canvas inbox. When you're emailing us, do us a favor and check Canvas announcements or Canvas first to see if you can find the answer to your question. If not, when you email us, go ahead and put the course name or course subject number and give your full name so that we know, because the TAs and I are often responsible for multiple classes, so that way we'll know right away which class you're talking about. And give us 24 to 48 hours, not including weekends. Now, we're never going to ignore an email from you, so if you don't hear from us, just send an email again or reach out to me if you reached out to the TA team. If you have questions about an assignment that you submitted, we ask that you email us rather than leaving a comment in the Dropbox. We get so many comments in the Dropbox, it's hard for us to figure out which ones are important and which ones, aren't. Okay. There's a lot of great resources, as you know, on campus, and I've got these linked up under the homepage on a link called Resources. We'll be going over some of the library guides that are relevant to this class, but you can also walk into the library and get support for research project, but also just technical support for your laptop, or if you're struggling with iClicker. We have, of course, the Student Disability Center, which is for anyone who has a diagnosis, mental health diagnosis, learning disorder, physical challenge, concussion, right? Anything like that, either short or long term, that you need to go through the Student Disability Center, and they often have a kind of a long appointment wait time, so you don't want to wait for that. Student case management, which is great for letting you know, just kind of helping you figure out where to get going for resources, and they also provide some absence notifications or verifications in a kind of some limited circumstances. Religious accommodations are available. The Survivor Advocacy and Feminist Education Center, or the SAFE Center, formerly the Women and Gender Advocacy Center, is a great resource. And we have a lot of resources under Rams Against Hunger, food pantries, and also meal swipe programs. I do want to give you a heads up that I regularly have to file reports with the Student Resolution Center or Student Conduct regarding plagiarism, even if it's unintentional. And so here's the typical reasons. Most recently, it's because people were using an AI platform to write their paper. However, when I meet with them to talk about it, they typically say they just used it to brainstorm or get ideas. So what I would tell you is, I think you better avoid it. I wish I could tell you you could use AI to guide it, but I think it's hard for people to use AI without taking too much from it, and then they're not doing their own thinking and their own writing. Similarly, if you are using the sample paper too closely, if you're even if you're putting it in your own words, if you're just kind of taking the ideas from the sample paper or another student's paper, if you take anything word for word from any source, not only do you have to cite it to give credit, but you also have to use quotation marks to let us know that you're taking more than 3 words from a sentence, for example. Okay, this is how points are distributed in this class, and I'll go over each of these assignments in more detail, but just a couple of takeaways from looking at it. One is there's a lot of things to do in this class, and that's can be good news or bad news. The bad news is there's a lot of things to do. The good news is no one thing is going to make or break you in terms of points. And then the second takeaway is that there's a lot of extra credit in this class. So I do hold firm to my rules, but I have a lot of ways that you can have grace in this class and have extra credit if you struggled or missed something.
Okay, so here's my grading scale. There isn't a set grading scale at CSU, so everybody gets to make up their own. One thing that I do want to tell you is that I do give A pluses. So that's one reason to do the extra credit, even if you've already got an A, is because I will, when I submit grades, kind of go through an extra step to turn your A into an A plus. Canvas won't show an A plus, but I will submit that into the grading system. And it doesn't change your GPA, but it's pretty cool to see A pluses on your transcript.
So the policy here just states that once the grades are posted and visible to you, you have a week to let us know that something's not right, that you didn't get the points or we made an error. We just don't want to be getting a bunch of emails at the end of the semester, about people kind of arguing for points, especially once grades are posted and people are trying to kind of get to a higher score. We don't want people going back and trying to come up with points from early assignments. So just make sure you stay on top of it, check your rubrics and your grades, and make sure everything's okay as we go. I know it's really hard to keep track of all instructors' different policies around late assignments. Mine are that you can submit anything late in this class with the exception of the major exams and extra credit surveys with a 5% per day deduction, and there's no end date on that, although when you're doing the math after 20 days at 5% per day, there's no points left to deduct, so there's no point in submitting anything that's more than 20 days late. The hard deadline is the Sunday of the last week of class, or the Sunday before finals week if it's a 16-week semester, and that's the last day to submit all assignments with or without documentation. In order to remove your late penalties, I will need documentation from one of these CSU sources: the Student Case Management Center, the Student Disability Center, Religious Accommodations, or the SAFE Center, formerly known as the Women and Gender Advocacy Center. I do have a late policies link on the course homepage that details all this, and I'll often refer students back there rather than have to try to explain all of this in an email. Student case management has gotten narrower in what they will provide documentation for absence verification. Now it is only hospitalizations, whether that's medical or mental health, more than 3 days, and the documentation is going to kind of have to come directly from the hospital to student case management. Jury duty or court appointments, Title IX protections related to pregnancy or investigations around, for example, intimate partner violence or sexual assault, bereavement of human loved ones. Pets aren't covered under this, unfortunately, but all students are eligible for 5 days annually of bereavement leave for things like traveling for services or attending services or because of, or going to the hospital. And these don't have to be taken consecutively. So I would encourage you to think about what day do you actually need it because you're missing class or you're missing an exam, and just apply for that day rather than the whole chunk of time, for example, that you're out. And then the last one is high impact situations such as natural disasters in your home community, for example, if you're an online student, or campus incidents.
Okay, so a little bit more about the workload. So a 3-credit course at CSU is said to be a range of 96 to 144 work hours altogether. And so I am estimating that for this course it's going to take students between 100 and 120 hours, which for an 8-week class turns out to be about 12 to 15 hours a week on average, some weeks less and some weeks more, and then for a 16-week course about 6 to 8 weeks per week on average. And I've really tried to design the class that it's the equivalent amount of time to take it online as it is on campus.
Okay, we do use iClicker polling in our face-to-face classes. We usually practice in week 1 and start counting in week 2. You do have to be in the classroom in order to get the points. You get the points regardless of what you answer. You can miss one iClicker question throughout a class and still get all the points for the day. If you missed something because you stepped out or went to the bathroom or whatever, please just come up after class and I'll fix it for you. I generally don't fix iClicker points over email. I just do it face-to-face, either after class or in office hours. You can miss 3 classes worth or 9 points of iClicker, and if you have them at the end of the semester, I turn them into extra credit. You can also make up your iClicker points if you have documentation from one of our CSU sources, which I talk about on another slide. So you can see the late policies or iClicker links on the Canvas homepage for more information on that and to access the iClicker makeup assignment.
Okay, so I have set up some class participation assignments that are based on lecture material. There's 6 of those, and we're going to drop one at the end of the semester. The nature of the assignments and then the specific kind of rubrics, these are all about 5-point assignments, that's all noted on Canvas.
We've got some lecture quizzes in this class. They are required, not practice, about 1 every other module. And there are 5 questions for each quiz. And you get 2 attempts, but there's potentially different questions each time. They are unproctored and open book, and you have unlimited time. You are on the honor pledge to do your own work versus work with someone else on it. So after we get past the theory unit, then you'll have 6 online reading discussions. We drop your lowest 1. For each of these, if there were, say, 4 readings that you're choosing from across those modules, you're just going to pick 2 of them, 2 of those readings to share your thoughts. You can answer my questions to consider for the readings, but you can also just, share your own thinking about what you liked or didn't like about the readings. You're also asked to pose a question and put it in bold that you would like your classmates to consider answering in their replies. It's not a requirement to answer people's questions for your reply, but it might give you something more kind of interesting to respond to. So your initial posts are due Fridays, your replies are due Sundays. One of your replies is required, and then the other one is extra credit. And we use the same rubric for all of the reading discussions. So as I mentioned, the readings are the basis for our online reading discussions, but you may be wondering what you need to know for exams. I post questions to consider for each of the readings, and so you should be able to answer those questions. And that will help prepare you for it in the exam. Really general questions about the reading, like if you read it, you should be able to answer it, can show up on the exams. If I highlight something about the reading in lecture, then that's even more fair game for exams. And I also have both multiple choice and short answer study guides posted, and some of the short answer study guides will have a question or so related to the readings. We do have a required APA and plagiarism quiz in this class. You're allowed to take it 3 times, and the system will record your highest score. It's open book, and you can use the materials posted on Canvas. It's based on the HDFS APA PowerPoint. There's 20 questions on each attempt. However, there's about 45 questions in the bank, so if you'd like to see all the questions and make sure that you're on track for APA and plagiarism policies, then you'll want to take it a couple of times.
Okay, so let's talk more about the major assignment in this class, which is the theory paper. So there's detailed guidelines posted on Canvas along with the sample paper. And so the overall requirements are that you find an empirical article that uses one of 5 theories that we study in this class. And I do have another kind of PowerPoint video that goes through the theory paper specifically. So in the theory paper, you're required to use both and cite both lectures and the Smith and Hammond textbook, and you have to cite 2 chapters from the Smith and Hammond textbook. The paper's in APA format, and we do use Turnitin. The way we've set it up, there's 3 parts to this assignment. There's the theory article check-in, which comes pretty quickly. And then there's the theory outline of the paper, and then there's the theory paper itself. Okay, so here's a quick overview on the debate PowerPoint, which comes later in the semester. And so, however, sign up is open after the first week of class. So generally when we start the second week of class, then the debate PowerPoint sign up is open under people on Canvas, and you can go in and pick one of the questions and positions to sign up for. And so some sample ones might be something like, is marriage becoming obsolete? And you could sign up for either the yes side or the no side. So there's usually several debate questions up there and then a yes and a no for each one. There's limited slots for each position, and sign up is on a first come first serve basis. So I'd encourage you to, sign up sooner rather than later. For this assignment, you're going to be using research-based sources to build your PowerPoint kind of to support your debate position. You're going to address some key arguments and then also something called It Depends, which I'll explain more in detail. And again, there's a whole PowerPoint video explaining this assignment. It will be in APA format, and you're also going to be required to add either audio voiceover or video like this to your slides.
Okay, so we have 2 exams online in this class. They are multiple choice, mostly, with a handful of short answer. The final is not cumulative. The exam, again, is online. You're going to take it within a 3-day window. Once you get started, you'll have 75 minutes and 1 attempt. It is a proctored closed book exam. But you are allowed 1 handwritten notes page, and the reason why I require it handwritten is then it's harder to put online or email to somebody. Everybody has to make their own notes page. The proctoring does require a webcam. If that's iffy on your equipment, then know that you can check out a laptop on campus in a few different areas, and that information is linked up under the Student Resources button on the course homepage. If you have extended time on your exams from the Student Disability Center, then we'll take that letter that we receive, our GTA will enter that extended time before the first exam and give you an email to confirm. There are study guides available for both exams, and those are linked up under the exam information button on the course homepage. There are study guides available for the exams in this class. They're located under the exams link on the home page. I occasionally change these as we move through the semester, and I add or delete or revise material. These are a copy and paste of the PowerPoint slides, so they are very long, but they do include some information on what is more likely to be emphasized on the exam and what are the things that you don't need to know for the exam. I would encourage you to consider using these Word documents as a tool to take notes on the lectures. So the Gottman oral history interview is a really nice extra credit option. It's due near the end of the class, but it is a little bit more involved, so I want to get you thinking about it. It's where you conduct a 1-hour interview with a couple who's been in a committed relationship for 5 or more years. You're going to use some of Gottman's oral history questions. You can choose the ones you want to ask. You're going to write a paper summarizing both the interview and assessing the couple's strengths and weaknesses. And you're also going to tie that into course readings and lecture material. Okay, so this is an opportunity to earn extra credit for sharing aloud in large group class discussions. So if you attend class and you share aloud for our large group discussion, not just a small group discussion, then you can earn up to 1 point per class, even if you share multiple times. And you can earn up to 3 points for the whole semester. And so what we're going to ask you to do is just go onto Canvas. There's a link on the course homepage each day that you share aloud in class, and just enter the date and then a brief phrase about what you shared about, like my brother's wedding. And then we'll go in and just verify that and give you the point for the day. We'll use the same Dropbox for all up to 3 points. So you can just keep doing a new submission in the same Dropbox. We are asking that you get that in within a week, because after that we're not going to be able to remember who said what and verify your submission. So my goal is to create a course in which all students can find themselves and also find the populations that they're going to be serving. As you might imagine, this type of content related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice is always changing. And I'm doing my best to stay on top of it, but sometimes I'm inaccurate, I'm outdated, and I know you'll let me know. I appreciate that. So feel free to reach out to me if something doesn't sit well with you. Send me an email, come to office hours. And if you're not comfortable coming to me, then there are a couple of other avenues through my department head or the bias reporting form, and those links are available in the course syllabus. Okay, so these are the CSU principles of a community. I'm going to do my best to hold myself to these, and you can let me know if you think I'm failing, and I'll also expect this of students as well. Okay, great job making it to the end of the welcome PowerPoint. We'll be clarifying things as we move through the course, but feel free to email me with any questions.